Shabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Thanks. And now we turn to page 124, 124. And I invite you to please join me in the reading that starts, May the door. May the door of the synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door to this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. And now I invite you to turn to page 128, 128, for Hine Ma Tov.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tovu manayim,
shevet
achim gam yachad. Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
Hine ma tovu manayim, shevet
achim gam yachad.
Hine
ma tovu manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
How good and how pleasant it is that brothers and sisters and siblings can dwell together this Shabbat and every Shabbat. So I'm glad you're all here. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the Baruch, which begins on page 146, 146.
Yai lai 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 lai.
Yai
Lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Yai lai 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai
HaMevorach Baruch
Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam
Va'ed. You may be seated. We turn to page 148 for Ma'ariv Aravim, 148.
Yada die, 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 die. Yada die, 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 die. Yada die, die, die. Yada die, die, yada die. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidbaro ma'ariv aravim ma'ariv aravim.
Together in the English, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tsevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign continually over us into eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
Baruch atah Adonai Ha'arim Aravim.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the watchword of our people, the Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated.
Adonai Elohecha v'chol levacha v'chol nafshecha v'chol me'odecha v'hayu הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לעוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Adonai Elohechem Emet. Now please join me on page 159, 159. Sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. And now we turn to page 158 for the song of our people's redemption, the Michamocha. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nehedar b'kodesh,
Nora tehilot osef eleh.
Nora
Tehilot osef eleh.
Machutecha ra'uvanecha Bukeiam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam Ze'eli anu ve'amru Ze'eli anu ve'amru Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed V'ne'emar kifat Adonai et Yaakov Uge'alo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
Beautiful. You all sounded great. And I could hear you better because I wasn't singing, because I'm worried that the singing is actually messing with the microphone. So forgive me while we figure this out. It may be that, it'll be one of those things. Eventually we'll get it. We'll get it. Dealing with feedback, dealing with the week, whatever else is going on, dealing with all the craziness that our world dishes out to us. We get to page 160 for the Hashkivenu, and it really puts into words for me that I'm praying for help building a sukkah of peace, a sukkah shlomecha, that just to get through the week, to get through to Shabbat, it feels like we need some extra help to deal with everything that's getting thrown at us. So finally we're here, it's Shabbat, and we can work on building this sukkah shlomecha and enjoying it. So page 160.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom V'hamidenu Shomrinu leChaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom V'hamidenu Shomrinu leChaim Ashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leShalom V'hamidenu Shomrinu leChaim.
Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkot shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. And now we turn to page 162 for Vishamru.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashavat lasot et hashavat lidorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashavat lasot et hashavat lidorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et hashavat lasot et hashavat lidorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et hashavat lasot et hashavat lidorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vaynafash, shavat vaynafash, shavat Vayinafash Vishamru B'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat La'asot et HaShabbat L'dorotam Berit Olam.
And now we've arrived at the Tefillah portion of our service, the Amidah. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit. We're on page 164. That's 164.
Adonai Sifatai Tiftach Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'neihem, Lama'an Shemo B'Hava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor L'Olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atarav L'Hoshia, Morid HaTal, Mecholkel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Zomech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekaheyim Emunato Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Ha'ageverot, Umido Malach, Melech Meimit Umechayeh, Umatzmeach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atala ha'chayot ha'kol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh ha'kol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, U'kdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'kadosh.
You may be seated. Together on the bottom of 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, our longing to feel your presence. And are you hearing this feedback? Okay, sorry. Here we go. At the bottom of page 175, please join with me. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still, clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, shodcha levadcha b'yirah na'avod. And now we continue on page 177. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, please join with me. What are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulcha na'el lahodot. And now we turn to page 178 for Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rahav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We reach the time in our service when our thoughts turn to those who need healing, whether it's healing of mind or of body or of spirit. The congregation tonight is thinking of Eric Rubenstein, Robin Zimmerman, Francis Marcus, Richmond Wynn, Jenny Ben Bassett, Holly Caristo, Jim DeArmond, Anita Perlman, Lionel Gleckenhaus, Rebecca Kaufman, Pearl Levin, Jay Goldblatt, Marsha Cohen, Ron Rappaport, Rose Iglico, Carol Friedman, Carol Wallace, David Cohen, Carol Solomon, Ben Fishman, Natalie Conway, Marion Cohn Spitzner, Benedict Vigoro, Dale Ray, Michelle Jurgen Rosenthal, Margaret Gormley, John Mitchell, June Van, Jean Schroeder, Donna Berger, Marty Siegel, Rabbi Michael Matchison, and John Mitchell. There is anyone else who has a name they'd like to share with the congregation, I invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours.
Carolee Igo, Adam Myers, and all the caregivers out there.
Gail Steinberg.
Patty Rissman.
We keep all their names together with us. And we turn to page 371. That's 371 for the Mishaberach, and I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength who bless before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishebeirach imotenu mekor habracha leavoteinu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
May those who will not be healed on this earth be healed. May those who will not be healed on this earth be blessed with nights free from suffering and days filled with peace. May God grant strength and comfort to those who care for the sick. May God help us to find hope and courage as we face fear and loss. May all who are ill be surrounded by the love of friends, loving companions, families, and community. And let us say,
Amen.
please be seated. And please now take a few moments for silent meditation.
Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yase shalom, yase shalom. Shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good stuff. This parsha is Nitzavim, which coincidentally is the same as the parsha we'll read from on Yom Kippur. And the reason why I say coincidentally is that because of a lunar calendar that we have, the parshayot, the Torah chapters that we read as the weeks go on, shift during the years depending on how the month falls out. We had an extra month this year, so thankfully for me, the high holidays are a full month plus later than they would have been last year when we didn't have this extra month of Adar. So I get a couple more weeks to settle in and really learn the ropes of my job before I have to go through the high holidays. So thanks to Adar too. I'm glad that we had that extra time. And because we're here and because this fell out the way it did, this week's Parsha being Nitzavim gives me some extra rehearsal time to practice some ideas for what I'll say on Yom Kippur. So if you hear some of the same things in about 12 days, I warned you here first that there might be some repetition. So Nitzavim tells us that the commandments that God is telling us to observe in order to succeed and thrive in the land that we are entering into, what we have to do to do them isn't beyond our reach. No one has to sail across the ocean to get them. No one has to climb a high mountain to get them. They're in our mouths and in our heart. We can have access to fulfilling these commandments because they're right here. They're right here in us already. And this is a lovely sentiment. I'm really glad that the Torah makes this explicit, that we have the power to do what we need to do. But the Torah and the high holidays also have some sticks to go with their carrots. And leading into the high holidays, it can be pretty scary, some of our liturgy, the Book of Life and what it implies, and the Unatana Tokef, which is liturgy we'll also actually hear on Rosh Hashanah. It appears early too, the who shall live and who shall not liturgy. And so what I'd like us to think about is not only that we have access to doing mitzvot, but we get to choose, because the world is the way it is and we can't do all the mitzvot anyway because there's no second temple, there's no temple right now, that we get to choose which mitzvot we want to do, and we get to think about the God that we are keeping in mind, that we think about, that commands us to fulfill the commandments. Is it the God of the Torah in the way that the sort of angry God? Is it more a God of modern sensibility, where we have our philosophers that say it's a watchmaker, that God set things in motion and then stepped back as if the world were a watch and just sort of let it go, let it spin, wound forever to keep on moving. And everything in between. There are all sorts of different ways to think about God. One of the ones that I studied in a book by Rabbi Bradley Artson talked about God having been, after creating the universe, sort of diffused into everything, every plant, every animal, every molecule, every rock, every person. And that diffused God, spread out throughout everything in the whole universe, wound up being functionally now sort of a nudge towards the good choices. That if we have in front of us 5 different choices, you think of yourself with like a poker deck, right? And there's a few different choices arrayed before you every moment of every day. And God, in this philosophy, is sort of nudging us towards the best choice, the most moral choice, the most ethical choice. So I encourage all of us to think about the kind of God we're bringing with us into the high holidays, so that when we read liturgy that could be very scary, could be very sort of instilling fear and awe into us as we approach these days of awe, that we think about the fact that we do have the power to perform these commandments, to observe these commandments that we choose to observe. The power is in our minds and in our mouths and our hearts, and we can make those choices, and we can bring our own thoughts on God with us into these high holidays. So I wish us good thinking on that, good choices to make, and I'm wishing you all a Shabbat Shalom. And now we turn to page 586 for the Aleinu. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, lateit gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu shehu Shamayim v'yosed haaretz u'moshav yikaro b'shamayim mima'al ushkinatu zo v'gov hei meromim hu Eloheinu ein od emet malkeinu efesulato kakatuv v'torato v'yatata hayom v'hashevota el levavecha ki Adonai hu ha'Elohim b'shamayim mimal v'al haaretz mitachat ein od v'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
You may be seated. Yesh kochavim. There are stars up above, so far away that we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we have loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. At this time, we think of those whom we've loved and lost. The congregation is thinking tonight of those who've passed within the last year: Shirley Wolf, Jane B. Hirsch, Dan Goldman, Judy Ellikin, Inga Langsam, Phyllis Zuckerman, Nancy Honig, Judy DeArmond, Gloria Bell, Dorothy Zemlich-Fine, Gordon Overton, Jay Aronoff. And we're also observing the yard sites of Tootsie Becker, Stuart Beckerman, Morton Fox, Walter Friedley, Dan Goldman, Matthew Gottesman, Sonia Konovolev Silverman, Martha Latimer, Joseph Levy, Helene Lipkin, Seymour Matchison, Frida Meinstein, Dorothy Pattison, Rose Zubro Rosenbluth, Ruth Steiner, Harvey Stelson, David Toll, Jathan Trussell, and Carol Witten. If there is anyone that has a name that they'd like to share with the community, someone whom they're bringing in, they're holding in their hearts today, whether this person passed away in the last week, the last month, the last year, or at this time in years past, I invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours.
Dick Levine.
We hold all their names together as a community, and I invite you to rise in body or spirit for the Kaddish, which is found on page 598. 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach leolam ulalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yidromam v'yinaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shmei d'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. May the one who brings peace to the heavens bring comfort to those who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. And now, I invite you to turn to page 662, 662, for Hashivenu.
Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, v'nashuva, Chadish, Chadish, Yameinu kekedem, Hashivenu, Hashivenu, Adonai Elecha, v'nashuva, v'nashuva, Chadish, Chadish, Yameinu kekedem.
We turn to page 603, 603, for the priestly blessing.
We invite you to rise in body or spirit. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yihuneka.
May God's light shine upon you, and may God be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yaseim lecha.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. Can ye hear Ratzon? May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
We'll see you out in the social hall, I think, for the Kiddush.